Global Law program at FGV Direito SP invites leading scholars from around the world to share their views on the global law in these days. Now we have the pleasure of receiving Professor Marta Pertegás, who is teaching the course New Technologies and Conflicts of Law. Good afternoon, Professor Pertegás. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your course here in Brazil?
Yes, thank you very much for this invitation. I'm very pleased to be here in Sao Paulo. Well, about me. I am originally a Spanish citizen, and I've been quite mobile myself, having worked both in Belgium and the Netherlands. And that, I guess, is one of the reasons why I'm interested in the diversity of laws around the world. And that somehow explains my particular focus on conflict of laws, because as you know, the laws are still very diverse around the world, but the problems we face are more and more the same, similar in the different parts of the world. In that regard, I noticed that technological developments is a phenomenon we are confronted with in all parts of the world. And so I thought that perhaps the expertise that we have built up in the area of conflict of laws, that truly relates more in particular to the offline world, could now be used and facilitate the resolution of problems in the online context.
That's fascinating. I think there's a move of standardizing technology, right? That's putting pressure for law to become more standardized. So let me ask you, maybe it's my curiosity, do you think that the framework of traditional law can cope with the technological changes we're facing today, or are we going to have to totally reshape the system to accommodate these new technologies? Because all these problems of national borders, of procedural steps, of the time it takes for things to get through, do you think that our traditional mindset can cope with the new technologies?
Well, I think you reached the crux of the problem, and I wish I would have an answer. Maybe in the course of this week here in Sao Paulo, I will have the chance to exchange with colleagues and with students about this very key question. My sense, based on my preliminary research, is that the traditional law, as we call it, should be able to cope with new technologies. There is no reason why we should have to reinvent the wheel. And I am myself somehow skeptical about those who think that necessarily dispute resolution should be online for issues that occur online. I think that is a nice addition, but that should not prevent citizens like you and me to have access to our regular traditional courts. I am very much a fan of court adjudication, although I see the advantages of all forms of alternative dispute resolution. And so I really wish that around the world our courts will have the resources and the tools to be able to face these new challenges.
Yeah, that's really fascinating, because there's all the connections. I believe I agree with you, because there is this democratic aspect of courts adjudicating, which is we shouldn't overlook. Right?
Absolutely.
But you mentioned also, Professor, that of course this is a phenomenon that's taking place all over the world. And but you happen to be in Brazil. So from your point of view, what should Brazilians be looking at in regards to these new problems of new technologies and conflicts of law? What do you think is particularly interesting for us to discuss at this point?
Well, yes, thank you for your question. In preparing for these classes, I discovered very interesting developments here in Brazil. In particular, the fact that over the past years, if I'm not mistaken, something that has become an indispensable tool of our lives, WhatsApp, has been blocked. The access to WhatsApp has been blocked for the whole country.
There have been moments, but that have been, of course, the object of great dispute.
Yes, exactly. But this is not unique to Brazil. But how, let's say, there has been an intervention, if I'm not mistaken, from the highest court to again open up access to WhatsApp, shows this tension between, our freedom of speech and our devices, current common devices, and the fact that those devices are run by very, very powerful companies that sometimes are not willing to be very cooperative with justice. This is a tension that I think has existed for many, many centuries in the offline context, and we see it now in new facets in this online environment. And what is fascinating is that it affects a whole society. And I believe that these developments have happened in particular for the Brazilian, let's say, jurisdiction. But if I compare those phenomena with current litigation, both in the United States and in Europe, I really come to the conclusion that we should have more dialogue and more means of cooperation, international cooperation. In the past 10 years, I was an official to one of the international organizations that is leading in this area of conflict of laws, the Hague Conference on Private International Law. And so I am a true believer of proper international legal cooperation, and I hope that despite these challenging times, we will still have the political will of our governments to enter into forms of proper cooperation, because at the end of the day, all these problems are common to all of us.
That's really fascinating and crucially important for our times. It leads to the question that we'll need legal professionals capable of dealing with the complexity of this new issue. There's all the technological aspects to it. And part, of course, of the task of creating this new law professionals is the job of this school here.
Yes.
We've been trying to use new educational technologies, so to speak, and more centered on students. I know that we have just recently started a course, but could you share your impressions on the dynamics, on the students? How is it to teach this group of Brazilian students so far, at least?
Yes, thank you for your question. Well, look, my first impression has been very positive. It is a mixed group. It is in different senses. It's a group of undergraduate and graduate students, a main group of Brazilian students combined with some international students, and an ideal size, 30 students. And so to me, as far as I can tell, this has been the perfect combination, and the courses so far have been very, very rewarding, as well as very enjoyable. I have also learned a lot from the fact that the students come from different backgrounds and were willing to share their experiences with me. So I think that, yes, we should all contribute to this new generation of lawyers. We shouldn't be, I think, afraid, because my course spoke about new technologies, and in only looking at the students, I realized that the word new had perhaps a meaning to me, being of my generation, but not necessarily to them, because to them those technologies are not new.
It's technologies.
Exactly, they are part of their essential life.
Right. And I think that this is a crucial point from the educational perspective that you bring about, which is, I was thinking the same thing. Our relation to what I call traditional legal structures and courts is different from theirs because they are younger, and their relation to technology is different from ours, because we're a little less young than they are. And this, I think, poses a challenge but an opportunity for law schools, because in a way, it's law schools who perhaps can pave the way for translating the traditional language of law into the new needs of technology. Do you think that this is the way to go in terms of legal education?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with what you just said. I think that's the perfect symbiosis that we have to have and take advantage of all what our students bring to the classes. And I'm very happy that here I think you have as the objective educate those students in a way that they become open-minded professionals in different senses, and they can deploy their skills in a number of different professions, but also in different parts of the world. So I think I can only, from what I've seen, commend your global law program.
Thanks. And finally, a word on your future research agenda. What are your next steps? What do you think you're going to be working on for the next few years, if it's possible to say at this point?
Sure. My research will probably continue in the area of new technologies, or technologies I should call it, and conflict of laws. In particular, I am fascinated by everything that relates to the portability of judgments. As I said, I consider court adjudication and the work that our courts do essential. I have the highest respect for our judges, because sometimes with very limited resources, in particular in our respective countries, they do great work, I think. And so I would hope that my work on the portability of judgments, which means the cross-border effects that national judgments can have abroad, can contribute to somehow to pay tribute to the excellent work that I think they are doing. I know that in some continents and parts of the world, court adjudication is considered to be the least appropriate option, in particular for international transactions. And I think that this is something we should all work on, because at the end of the day, access to courts remains a fundamental right in our human right framework, whatever that may be. And so I hope that my research from a distance can contribute to that.
I'm sure it will, in a major way. And I can only thank you on behalf of FGV Direito. It's a privilege to have you here, and to have you sharing your experience with our students. And I thank you very much for me. Thank you.
It's me who thanks you.